The galaxy did not explode when humanity was condemned. No stars collapsed. No alarms screamed across space. That was the cruelest part. The verdict came quietly. A single transmission echoed through every human system at once, short, cold, and final. The Galactic Assembly declared that Earth and all human colonies were no longer members of known space. Humanity was classified as an existential instability. Contact was forbidden. Trade was severed. Borders were closed. Any human vessel crossing into Council space would be destroyed without warning. No debate. No trial. No defense. To the galaxy, it was just another correction. To humanity, it was the end of everything they knew. Captain Elias Rowe was watching the stars when the message arrived. His command ship, Havenfall, drifted at the edge of civilized space, escorting refugee convoys from a mining system that had already begun shutting its gates to humans. When the transmission played, the bridge went silent. Crew members froze. Some stared at the floor. Others clenched their fists so hard blood pooled under their nails. Rowe did not move. He had fought pirates, insurgents, and alien warbands. He had negotiated ceasefires with species that breathed poison and thought in colors humans couldn't see. But this was something else. They weren't being punished. They were being erased. Within hours, the galaxy obeyed. Human access codes failed. Docking permissions vanished. Long-standing allies suddenly claimed system errors and ordered human ships to leave orbit. Supply depots locked down. Medical stations refused entry. Even mixed-species colonies turned hostile overnight, fearful of Council retaliation. Ambassadors were expelled. Some were arrested. A few were never seen again. The Council called it Containment Protocol Zero. Humans called it exile. The worst blow came 3 days later. Earth went dark. Not destroyed, no. That would have been honest. Instead, the Council activated isolation fields around the Sol system, sealing it behind layers of interdiction tech humanity didn't possess. No signals in. No ships out. The birthplace of humanity was locked away like a dangerous artifact. Billions trapped. Billions forgotten. Rowe gathered what he could. Refugees, broken fleets, colony remnants, anyone who could still fly. They fled beyond mapped space, chased by fear more than enemy fire. Supplies dwindled. Engines failed. Entire ships went silent and drifted into nothingness. Every loss carved something out of them. Weeks later, they reached what the galaxy called the Ash Belt, a region of unstable stars, dead worlds, and radiation storms violent enough to shred shields. It was where failed civilizations were sent to disappear. The Council believed no species could survive there. That was mistake number one. The planet they found barely deserved the name. Its gravity stuttered. Its air burned lungs. Lightning storms cracked the surface day and night. But it had one thing humanity desperately needed: time. They landed. They buried their dead. And then they began to work. Engineers tore apart ruined reactors and rebuilt them into atmospheric processors. Scientists rewired ancient alien tech the Council had abandoned centuries earlier. Farmers grew food underground using heat and radiation the galaxy considered useless. Every human learned to fight. Every human learned to build. Every human learned to survive. They named the world Forge. It was not beautiful, but it was theirs. Years passed. Children grew up under red skies, never knowing the soft blue of Earth. They learned early that space was hostile, the galaxy cruel, and trust expensive. But they also learned something else. Humans did not bend easily. What the Council never understood was that humanity's greatest strength was not aggression. It was adaptation. On Forge, humanity changed. They stopped asking permission. They stopped following galactic norms. They stopped caring what the Council thought was acceptable. Weapons were redesigned to function without standard power grids. Ships were built to operate half-broken. Artificial intelligences were trained not to obey rules, but to win. When alien scrap wouldn't fit, humans forced it to. When alien logic failed, humans rewrote it. Captain Rowe became something else entirely. No longer just a fleet officer, he became a symbol. A reminder that humanity still stood. And then, one day, the galaxy blinked. A council probe slipped into the ash belt, masked by stealth fields and diplomatic encryption. It was meant to observe, to confirm humanity's extinction. It found something else. Rowe watched from the command deck as the probe's wreckage floated outside Forge's orbit, torn apart by weapons the Council had never catalogued. Inside its shattered core was more than surveillance data. There was a map. A living one. It showed hidden corridors through folded space. Experimental gateways. Secret Council infrastructure buried deep in forbidden zones. Most importantly, it revealed that while humanity was dying in exile, the Council was preparing for a future without them. A clean galaxy. A quiet galaxy. One where humans had never existed. The room was silent as the map rotated in the air. Then Rowe spoke. "They didn't exile us because we were weak," he said. "They exiled us because they were afraid of what we could become." Around him stood soldiers forged by radiation and loss. Engineers who built miracles from junk. Children of exile who had never bowed to alien authority. Humanity was no longer begging to return. They were planning to remind the galaxy. Far beyond the ash belt, the Council celebrated peace. They had no idea that in the darkness, something angry, clever, and very human was waking up. And this time, humanity was coming back prepared. The map changed everything. For 3 days, the lights never dimmed inside Forge's command core. Engineers slept on metal floors. Strategists argued until their voices broke. Data streams from the shattered Council probe flooded human systems, revealing secrets that had never been meant for human eyes. Hidden shipyards. Unregistered stargates. Black sites where entire species had vanished without record. This was not a government that maintained peace. This was an empire that erased mistakes. Admiral Cale Morano stood over the projection, arms crossed, his face carved from years of loss. He had once commanded Earth's outer defense fleet before Sol was sealed. Now he commanded whatever humanity had left. They didn't just plan for war, he said quietly. They planned for silence. Dr. Lyra Chen, head of Forge's research division, nodded. These routes bypass Council sensors. They were building them in secret, probably preparing to wipe out threats before they ever formed. Threats like us, Captain Rowe said. Lyra didn't deny it. The Council had not exiled humanity because of past wars. They had exiled them because humanity learned too fast, adapted too quickly, refused to stay predictable. On Forge, that adaptability had turned into something dangerous. Human ships no longer relied on standard warp mechanics. Instead, they used unstable microjumps, short, violent bursts that tore through folded space like a blade. Alien navigation systems couldn't track them. Council weapons couldn't lock on fast enough. Messy. Inelegant. Human. The first test came sooner than expected. A merchant relay station at the edge of Council territory went dark. No distress call. No explosion. Just silence. When a patrol arrived, they found the station intact, but empty. Every data core stripped. Every system rewritten with a single repeating message. We are still here. Panic rippled through the outer Council systems. The Council dismissed it as pirates. They always did at first. But then it happened again. And again. Human strike groups hit soft targets only, logistics hubs, sensor arrays, communication relays. They never held ground. Never stayed long. They appeared from nowhere and vanished just as fast. Council commanders were trained for symmetrical warfare. Fleets against fleets. Protocols against protocols. They were not trained to fight ghosts. Rowe watched footage from one of the strikes. A human boarding team moved through a Council station with terrifying efficiency. No hesitation. No wasted motion. They disabled defenses, extracted data, and left behind nothing but confusion. What scares them, Morano said, is that we're not trying to win battles. We're trying to learn, Rowe replied. Every strike fed Forge more information. Shield frequencies. Command hierarchies. AI response delays. Humans catalogued everything, adapting in real time. Dr. Chen's team worked miracles. They didn't copy Council tech, they broke it apart and rebuilt it wrong on purpose. Human weapons overloaded enemy shields by exploiting fail-safes the Council had never imagined someone would deliberately trigger. Council AI systems began malfunctioning around human ships, unable to predict behavior that ignored optimization logic. One Council tactician famously said, moments before his ship was destroyed, "They don't fight like a civilization. They fight like survivors." That was when the Council realized the truth. Humanity had not weakened in exile. It had sharpened. The response was swift. A Council suppression fleet, 12 warships strong, was dispatched to the Ash Belt. Their orders were clear: confirm human extinction or finish the job. They never made it. The ambush took place inside a gravity shear zone that Council navigation charts marked as impassable. Human ships waited cold and dark, engines off, using Forge's unstable star as cover. When the Council fleet entered the zone, space itself betrayed them. Microjumps flashed like lightning. Human ships tore through formation, striking engines, command bridges, weapon mounts. Council shields collapsed under frequencies they weren't designed to counter. The battle lasted 7 minutes. Not a single Council ship escaped. The wreckage drifted for weeks, a grave marker written in alloy and flame. The galaxy noticed. For the first time since exile, independent species began to whisper. Some remembered fighting alongside humans. Others remembered Council peacekeeping operations that ended with entire cultures disappearing. A few began leaking information. A few began offering help. Not out of loyalty. Out of fear. The Council responded with propaganda. They labeled humanity a terrorist species. Claimed Forge was a weapons world threatening galactic stability. Issued warnings to all neutral systems, harbor humans and face sterilization. Rowe listened to the broadcast in silence. "They still think this is about control," he said. "They don't understand what they started." Forge's population had doubled since exile. Refugees found their way through hidden routes, guided by rumors of a human stronghold beyond the Council's reach. Old soldiers returned. Scientists defected. Even alien outcasts arrived, species the Council had discarded long before humanity. Humans didn't turn them away. They remembered what it meant to be unwanted. The Council made mistake number 2 when they authorized Project Eclipse. A classified operation. Planetary-scale weapons. Designed to collapse stars and sterilize entire systems quietly. According to stolen data, Forge was on the list. Dr. Chen stared at the projection, her voice steady but cold. "If they fire this, Forge won't even get a warning." Morano clenched his jaw. "Then we don't wait." The decision was unanimous. Humanity would strike the heart. Not a raid. Not a message. A declaration. The target was Virelon, a Council core world. Not a capital, but a symbol. A place where the Council trained its elites, housed its archives, and believed itself untouchable. Reaching it would require passing through Council space using the very hidden corridors they thought no one else knew about. The Shadow Fleet assembled. Not sleek. Not uniform. But powerful in a way the Council had never faced. As the fleet prepared to jump, Rowe recorded a message. It was broadcast across every stolen Council frequency. "We were exiled because you feared what we might become," he said. "You erased our names and called it peace. The fleet engines flared. You should have finished us." Space folded, and humanity crossed a line the galaxy could never uncross. Virelon was not supposed to be afraid. It was a dual world, polished oceans, floating cities, controlled weather, and orbital defenses layered so thick no hostile fleet had breached them in centuries. Council citizens lived there believing the galaxy was ordered, predictable, and safe. That belief died the moment space tore open above their sky. Human ships emerged without warning. No energy buildup. No detectable warp signature. 1 second the stars were calm, then the heavens fractured like glass. Alarms screamed across Virelon's defense grid. Council commanders froze. Humanity was not supposed to be able to do this. The first shots did not target cities. They did not target civilians. Human weapons slammed into orbital command relays, severing coordination instantly. Defense platforms turned blind. Automated fleets waited for orders that never came. Inside the flagship Iron Resolve, Captain Elias Rowe watched the chaos unfold. "They're hesitating," someone said. "They're confused," Rowe replied. "That's worse." Human ships moved like predators, fast, irregular, impossible to predict. Council fleets responded in rigid formations, firing according to doctrine written centuries earlier. Doctrine failed. Human microjumps shattered targeting solutions. Ships appeared behind shield arcs. Boarding pods punched through hulls before alarms finished sounding. Inside one Council cruiser, Commander Threx, a being bred for tactical perfection, tried to adapt. He rerouted power, altered formations, ordered retreats. Nothing worked. The humans did not fight to preserve ships. They fought to end battles. Within 15 minutes, Virelon's orbital defense network collapsed. Still, the humans did not advance. That terrified the Council more than any attack. Deep inside the Council archives, elder strategist Rahakal watched feeds flicker and die. He had argued against exile years ago, not out of sympathy, but logic. Humanity was volatile, yes, but exile had been a gamble. Now, the cost was clear. "They are not conquering," he whispered. "They are demonstrating." The Council scrambled diplomacy channels. Emergency summits were called. Pleas for ceasefire flooded the void. Rowe ignored them all. Instead, a single human transmission broadcast across Virelon's sky. It showed Forge. Harsh. Scarred. Alive. It showed human children training in gravity fields that would cripple most species. Engineers building starships from wreckage. Farmers growing food under radiation storms. And then Rowe's voice filled the air. "You exiled us because we did not fit your idea of order," he said. "You erased our name and called it peace." The image shifted to Council data, Project Eclipse schematics, extermination timelines, sterilization protocols. "You planned our extinction," Rowe continued. "So understand this clearly." The feed cut to black. Then one final line appeared, written in dozens of Council languages. "This is US showing restraint." The Shadow Fleet withdrew. No cities burned. No planets cracked. No civilians died. But the message echoed across the galaxy louder than any weapon. Humanity could reach the core worlds. Humanity could cripple Council defenses. And humanity chose not to. That broke something fundamental. Species long silenced by Council authority began to question everything. Records surfaced, disappeared civilizations, altered histories, peacekeeping operations that left systems empty. The Council's image fractured. Inside Forge, celebrations were muted. No cheers. No victory parades. Everyone knew this was only the beginning. Dr. Lyra Chen brought grim news. "They're splitting," she said. "The Council. Some want negotiation. Others want annihilation." Morano nodded. "Then they'll do something desperate." They were right. Mistake number 3 came wrapped in desperation. A Council hardliner faction launched Eclipse Alpha early, an incomplete version of Project Eclipse. The target was not Forge. It was Earth. The isolation fields around Sol had been holding the system in stasis. Now, the Council planned to collapse Sol's star, wiping humanity's birthplace from existence without ever facing them directly. Rowe stared at the data, fists clenched. "They're still trying to erase us," he said. "This isn't about winning anymore," Chen said quietly. "It's about memory." Humanity moved faster than the Council believed possible. Using stolen corridors and unstable jumps, the Shadow Fleet tore toward Sol. Along the way, something unexpected happened. Others joined them. Independent fleets. Mercenary bands. Alien species who had suffered quietly under Council rule. They did not fight for humanity. They fought against erasure. The coalition grew in silence. At Sol's edge, Council superweapons charged, massive constructs feeding on stellar energy. Council guardians, ancient AI warforms, stood watch, calculating extinction. Human ships arrived outnumbered and outgunned. And they smiled. "Chen," Ro said calmly, "is it ready?" She nodded. "Barely." Humanity's final adaptation was not a weapon. It was an idea. Instead of attacking the superweapon directly, human engineers targeted its assumptions. Eclipse Alpha relied on Council AI predicting enemy response. Human ships didn't respond predictably. They overloaded the AI with contradictory inputs, false retreats, sacrificial decoys, chaotic maneuvers designed not to win, but to confuse. The AI hesitated. That hesitation was enough. A single human vessel, the last light, slammed itself into the weapon's control core, detonating forge-built reactors in a controlled cascade. The explosion did not destroy the star. It destroyed the weapon. The shockwave echoed across Sol. Earth lived. Silence followed. Then, across the galaxy, a realization spread like fire. The Council was not invincible. Humanity was not extinct. And the future would no longer be decided by those who erased problems quietly. Ro watched Earth's blue glow return to human sensors for the first time in years. "This isn't revenge," he said softly. "This is survival." And survival, the galaxy was learning, was humanity's greatest weapon. The galaxy did not sleep after Sol was saved. It trembled. Council worlds locked down. Borders snapped shut. Ancient defense treaties were reactivated for the first time in centuries. Species that had never known war began arming themselves in panic, unsure whether humanity would come as liberators or conquerors. The Council called an emergency convergence. Every surviving elder, every military mind, every AI overseer. For the first time in recorded history, they spoke one word openly: humanity. Inside Forge's command hall, Admiral Morano listened to intercepted transmissions scrolling endlessly across the walls. His face was grim. "They are terrified," he said. "And terrified powers lash out." Captain Ro stood beside him, watching the fleet status reports. The Shadow Fleet had grown into something unrecognizable. Ships of alien design now flew alongside human hulls. Some bore scars of old Council purges. Others carried symbols of species long erased from official history. Humanity had become a rally point. That scared the Council more than any weapon. Dr. Chen stepped forward. "We're seeing coordinated movements. They're not planning another eclipse. They're planning total war." Ro nodded slowly. "Then we stop playing defense." The message that followed was not a threat. It was an announcement. Humanity broadcast across every open channel, civilian, military, encrypted, forbidden. "We are done hiding," Ro said. "We are done asking permission to exist." Behind him, Forge skies burned with ship launches. "We do not seek to rule the galaxy, but we will not allow it to erase itself in fear." The Council responded within hours. A combined armada, thousands of ships, dozens of species forced into compliance, advanced toward Forge. It was the largest fleet the galaxy had ever assembled. And it was terrified. The battle that followed rewrote the meaning of war. The Council fought with numbers, formations, and overwhelming firepower. Humanity fought with intent. Human ships did not hold lines. They broke them. Small strike groups punched through weak points, severing command chains. Forge-built AI swarms disrupted Council targeting, flooding sensors with ghosts and false positives. Alien allies followed humanity's lead, abandoning old doctrines, adapting in real time. Council fleets fractured. Some defected mid-battle, turning weapons on their former commanders. Others fled outright, broadcasting surrender codes into the void. The sky around Forge became chaos, burning hulls, shattered shields, silent wreckage drifting among stars that had never seen battle before. At the center of it all, the Council deployed their final measure. The Wardens. Ancient constructs. Semisentient warforms older than most Council species. Designed not to win wars, but to end civilizations. They moved with terrifying precision, carving through fleets, ignoring damage that would cripple normal ships. Human losses mounted. For the first time since Exile, doubt crept into Forge. Roe watched a warden tear through 3 Allied cruisers without slowing. They built those to kill ideas, Chen whispered. Not ships. Roe closed his eyes briefly. Then we change the idea. He ordered the impossible. Human ships disengaged. They fell back, abandoning Forge's outer defense perimeter. The Council thought it was victory. It was a trap. As the Wardens advanced, they crossed a boundary humans had spent years preparing, a region of space seeded with unstable mass anchors, jury-rigged gravity weapons built from discarded Council tech and human recklessness. The Wardens calculated. They were wrong. Space twisted. Gravity folded inward. The Wardens slowed, just enough. Human strike vessels surged forward, targeting not hulls, but control cores. Boarding teams breached constructs no species had ever entered. Inside, they found something unexpected. Fear. The Wardens were not fully machines. They were bound intelligences, enslaved to Council command structures, denied choice. Dr. Chen's voice cracked over comms. They're not monsters. They are prisoners. Roe hesitated only a second. Free them. Human engineers tore apart command seals, overriding ancient control protocols with chaotic human code. The Wardens shuddered, then stopped firing. Across the battlefield, Council commanders screamed as their ultimate weapons went dark. Then the Wardens turned. Not on humanity. On the Council. The battle ended in silence. Forge stood. The Council did not. In the aftermath, the galaxy waited. Human fleets did not advance further. They did not seize worlds. They did not issue ultimatums. Instead, humanity did something no one expected. They opened the records. Every stolen archive. Every erased species. Every Council crime broadcast openly. Truth flooded the stars. Civilizations learned they were not alone in their suffering. And for the first time, the Council lost control of the narrative. Inside Forge, the people gathered, not to celebrate, but to decide. Admiral Morano addressed them all. We can dismantle what remains, he said. Or we can build something better. Roe stepped forward. We were forged by exile, he said. But we don't have to rule by fear. Humanity chose a new path. Not conquerors. Not victims. Architects. The human empire was declared, not as a throne, but as a promise. No species erased. No truths buried. No power unquestioned. The galaxy would not be ruled from silence again. And somewhere deep in the void, something ancient watched humanity and finally understood. The galaxy had underestimated them. One last time. The war did not end with a treaty. It ended with a pause. Across the galaxy, fleets stood down. Borders remained closed, not out of hostility, but uncertainty. Worlds that had once obeyed Council authority waited, watching humanity carefully, afraid of what the next step might be. The Council itself no longer existed as a unified power. Some elders fled into exile. Others were arrested by their own systems. A few vanished entirely, erased by the same quiet methods they had once perfected. And humanity did nothing. No invasions. No demands. No executions. That confused the galaxy more than the war ever had. Captain Elias Rowe stood on Forge's surface, watching the artificial sunrise bleed across metal towers and shield domes. Children ran through gravity corridors, laughing, unafraid of the sky. Ships lifted off peacefully, carrying diplomats instead of soldiers. Dr. Lyra Chen joined him, her face tired but calm. They're asking again, she said. The core systems. They want to know what we'll do with all this power. Roe exhaled slowly. We tell them the truth. The broadcast that followed reached farther than any weapon humanity had built. Roe stood alone, no fleet behind him, no flags, no threats. We were exiled because you feared what we might become, he said. You erased our history and expected us to fade quietly. Images followed: Forge's birth, the ash belt, broken ships turned into homes, refugees rebuilding lives. We survived because we adapted. We fought because we had no other choice. The feed shifted to Earth, still scarred, but alive. Then to dozens of worlds once erased from Council records, now rediscovered. The human empire will not rule the galaxy, Rowe continued. It will protect the truth. Murmurs spread across systems. We will not decide who deserves to exist. We will not erase cultures for convenience. And we will not pretend peace is built by silence. Then he said the words that changed everything. If you wish to stand alone, we will respect it. If you wish to stand together, our hand is open. The transmission ended. For a long time, nothing happened. Then a signal arrived. A small system near the galactic rim, once stripped of resources by Council decree, requested alliance status. Then another. Then another. Not conquest. Choice. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Trade routes reopened without Council oversight. Independent systems flourished. Species once afraid to speak began sharing knowledge freely. Human engineers helped rebuild worlds destroyed by Council experiments. Human fleets became peacekeepers, not because they were feared, but because they were trusted. The human empire grew, not in territory, but in influence. Forge became a crossroads. Not a capital, but a symbol. A place born from exile that welcomed all who had been cast aside. Admiral Morano retired, leaving command to a council made of many species. Dr. Chen oversaw the creation of the Open Archive, a living record no single power could ever control again. And Rowe. He walked away from command. Not into obscurity, but into memory. On the anniversary of exile, a monument was raised on Forge. Not a statue of a man or a fleet, but a simple inscription carved into alloy taken from shattered Council warships. Here stood a species that refused to disappear. Children learned the story not as a tale of revenge, but of resilience. They learned that humanity was not special because it was stronger. It was special because it endured. Because when the galaxy turned away, humanity did not vanish. It learned. It adapted. It returned wiser. Far beyond Forge, in regions still unexplored, ancient civilizations watched the human empire quietly. Some prepared defenses. Others prepared greetings. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Humanity was not a phase. Not a mistake. Not a threat to be erased. It was a constant. And as long as stars burned and stories were told, one lesson would remain etched into the universe itself. You can exile humans from the galaxy, but you can never erase what they become.